Well, welcome back, everyone. So excited to see everyone here this afternoon. Please help me in welcoming our friend here, Ted Williams. Tim is going to speak on behalf of over 13 years of experience in design and marketing. He's transformed, obviously, from a skilled marketer to a digital coach, helping all of us in our businesses craft some seamless user experiences and powerful designs by storytelling. So one of the things we're all going to get better at by the end of this day, right? So I just want to make sure we all pay close attention. We have studied under Donner Miller, author of Building a StoryBrand. Tim brings a deep understanding of messaging that drives real connection. A proud father to his 2-year-old, super exciting, and host of Thought-Provoking Conversations podcast. Tim is passionate about using storytelling to inspire growth, transformation in life and business. Please give you a warm welcome and hand to Tim.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Real quick, the computer went off, so turn. Testing. Okay, cool. First and foremost, how's everybody doing so far? Did everybody have a great lunch? Yeah. Well, I didn't have a great lunch, you all. I didn't actually eat. But I had to mentally reset myself. So I went downstairs and I put on one of my favorite songs that I like to listen to before I actually do like presentations, just so I can mentally, oh shoot, sorry. There you go. But that being said, first and foremost, have you all taken anything from today so far? I know I got here a little bit late, but I was happy. Actually, I got here right during Alicia's presentation, and you all, I'm going to regurgitate some of the same information that she talked to you all about already earlier. But let's kind of really get into the power of storytelling by kind of doing a back pace of like my background. So first and foremost, you all, Alicia talked about it, and you all might find yourselves in this particular point either now, or you might get to that point where one day in your career, you're going to find that you're going to have to pivot. Whether that is because you just found out, hey, you don't like what you're doing anymore, or the industry, the economy, whatever, makes you have to pivot. My background started off as a web designer. I was doing web design for quite some time, and then one day a client came to me and said, hey, I would love for you to do marketing. Well, I knew nothing about marketing at that particular time. Just because I know how to build sites does not mean I know how to actually market them. And so I had a really great mentor. I went to go work for a company by the name of Seafoam Media, marketing agency in Maplewood. Well, this marketing agency would actually introduce me to my now forever mentor. His name is Brandon Dempsey of Go Brand Go. And that is where I really began to learn the power of storytelling. For those, Shannon made mention of it earlier, Donald Miller. If you've never heard of him, definitely recommend you go check him out. It has some really great resources. But I'm not going to even say that he necessarily coined it, but he coined it in a way that is now made it more mainstream in a sense of what a lot of different marketers, whatever avenue you all might be in, utilize to be able to talk about storytelling. And so that being said, got introduced to storytelling, and then ironically built my podcast, Thought-Provoking Conversations, which is really focused on creating healthier relationships and communication between one another. And well, how well does that tie into storytelling? Because in order for you to utilize storytelling effectively in your business, the biggest thing that you have to do is, well, be human. And I know that is kind of, odd, but we're living in this world of AI, and a lot of people don't want to be human anymore. They want to hide behind a computer and allow AI to translate everything for them. And so what we're going to discuss is how do we use storytelling in order to be able to guide our audience and allow them to see that we are exactly the guide that they need in order to fulfill their solution or to alleviate the problem that they're actually going through. So we'll start at why storytelling. First and foremost, let's just be honest. Everybody in here, whether you've started your business already or you're in the process of starting it, you are wanting to accomplish some particular goal. And in accomplishing that goal, that means you actually want to be the hero of your story. While I definitely congratulate you all on that journey, here's the thing. The people that you're looking to serve, they don't want you to come to them as their hero. Here's the thing. We all want to be the hero of our own story. And so, just like any great story, we think about, by a show of hands, anybody seen Star Wars or heard of Star Wars? Well, we think about Yoda, we think about Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker. All of these different Jedis, right, had a guide. Yoda was the master guide and trained Obi-Wan Kenobi. But here's the thing, even despite all of the different journeys, trials, tribulations that they all went through, you know, they needed somebody to be able to guide them and give them a very clear, concise plan and action to be able to reach their desired goal. And so today we're going to talk about how do you position your business as the guide to your audience and ensure that they become the hero. Why? Because at the end of the day, once you help them reach their desired goal, we all win. Why? Well, they reached their goal, most likely as you as a business. You've gained new business. You've also seen great results in what you're delivering to them. And then most importantly, we've heard it a little bit time after time in the different presentations, is that can become a really, really great referral. So now, one question I got for you all. What's one of the greatest stories, whether you're a believer or not, that has been told to date, has multiple translations right now? Jesus Christ. Now, let's get serious. Jesus was the hero, but if we just stop before he gets, to where he died on the cross, right? He had so many different interactions with so many different people. We got the 12 disciples, right? They were going through all these different stuff, and they had their own different journeys that they had to go through. And so what I want to really pinpoint is, again, what if we can take this framework where we truly position ourselves as a guide. We're not focused on how do we serve our best interests, but we serve the best interests of those that we are looking to serve, and in return, that we win at the end. So we'll go, there we go. So we want to hit on the problems. What are the problems? And these problems can be both client-facing, but these problems are really for us. First and foremost, a lot of businesses aren't clarifying their message. They aren't clear on what they're actually offering. When we think about it, by show of hands, anybody heard of like the sea of noise, the white sea of noise? Well, if you haven't heard of it, all it basically means is when you get online, you search for something, Google is going to populate all these different things, right, that they're going to give you. You have now the opportunity to search over thousands worth of content in order to be able to figure out what it is that you need to know. But how do you actually know which content is actually credible and not credible? Well, when we are actually able to clarify our message as a business, we can ensure that we are standing out. So yes, you might have a business that is very similar to everybody. I'm a messaging consultant, you all. I'm pretty sure there are other messaging consultants. I just told you about, Donald Miller. He's a digital mentor. I've never met him, but I learned his framework, and in a sense, that is a business that is very much similar to mine. But how do I actually stand out from the competition? Well, first and foremost, in my case, I'm not as expensive as Donald Miller, but I still have to have very clear messaging to ensure that I'm connecting with my audience and making sure that they clearly understand what it is that I offer, but in a way that is as a guide, not a hero. So it can't be, oh, this is what I do. I've done this, I've done that. No, we need to change it from being I to here's how I can help you. And then we start to focus in on them, not again on us, but on them. Then you have to be able to define your difference. We've heard that already as well in conversations today. Whether it be you or your team, you all are struggling to be able to clearly define what is the main differentiator of your company versus those of your competitors. You need to get very clear, and when you're able to clarify your message and get clear on what it is that you're doing, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to pinpoint your difference. And then most importantly, like I told you all, we got to connect with a purpose. We have to be human. At the end of the day, we have to find a way to be able to empathize with those that we're looking to serve. They have real problems, and they need real solutions. So, what does solution look like? Well, first and foremost, we need to get clear messaging that connects. Again, think about anybody married, got a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever case, show of hands, come on. Ain't a lot of y'all, but what the point is, maybe if it's not a lot of you all, then maybe you're going to get to this point of maybe the reason why you all aren't actually dating is because you all had some crazy conversations that did not go the way that you thought it was going to go, right? Maybe they wasn't clear on what they were saying, you wasn't clear on what you were saying, you know, there was no understanding whatsoever. And all of a sudden now that caused a gap, which that gap led to a separation. Well, the same thing can be said in a business relationship when there is no clear communication and the customer cannot truly understand the value that you can provide them. It's going to create that gap, and they're going to go and search for a solution that is going to clearly state what it is that they're looking for. Now, you have to also then stand out in a crowded marketplace. Again, we're 2024, there's thousands of agencies out there, and I'm pretty sure depending if you're an agency owner or whatever type of business owner, you're going to find many of different businesses that are in your same lane. And so how do you actually stand out from the crowd? I don't remember exactly who said it, but I think it was like customer service. Actually, I believe it was the last presentation, that customer service does not stand out, and I can agree with that. So you need to figure out what is that main differentiator. You know, for me, as starting from a web designer to a marketer, and then finally coming to a point where I was a messaging consultant, here's where my main differentiator began to stand out. No matter what, I've always been focused on relationships. I love to get out there and I like to connect with people. I like to talk, I like to smile. Now, that's a caveat, y'all, I hate my smile. When they were trying to take a picture of me, I was like, oh, this fake smile is so horrible. But that being said, people, you know, it's something about a smile. People just gravitate towards a smile, and when you are able to get out there and connect with people, my way of connecting with people was just being able to go out there and talk and be able to hear them, give them a little smile there, and just find ways where I could just say, you know what, I understand what you're going through. And so you need to be able to talk to your audience and say, hey, look, I know you're going through this problem. Here's what I understand about it. Here's what I'm thinking we could potentially do in order to alleviate that problem. And then most importantly, that leads to what? Building trust with relatable leadership. At the end of the day, our audience needs to know that we understand what it is that they're going through. I once was engaged, and when I was going through marriage counseling, I remember this practice that my pastor took me through, right? And he was like, you know, when you're communicating with one another, you have to be able to ensure that you all understand one another. And so to do that, you should just basically repeat back what that person said. So why do we do that? We do that to ensure that they understand that we understand where they're coming from. Now, that doesn't mean you agree with what they're saying, but you at least have the idea that I do understand where you're coming from. And when a person can understand that you know how they feel in a particular position, and you're coming about trying to focus on helping them, not just trying to get a quick dollar or anything of that nature, you can start building that trust. So, 2 ways brains work. We have survive and thrive. And I'll just read it right off, but our brains focus on keeping us safe and moving forward. So we naturally seek ways to improve our lives. I'm pretty sure most of all of us can agree with that. But then we have it where we have to save energy. So have you ever been in a conversation with somebody where they was just talking so much and like you was really trying to process everything that they were saying, and eventually, finally, your brain just said, look, out of the 30-minute conversation we just had, I think I could probably retain about 5 minutes worth of this conversation to sum up pretty much what this person just said. And they like, oh, you ain't even listening to me. Oh, I really was listening to you. eventually you just start saying the same thing over and over again. Well, here's the thing. That's what our brains are doing, you all. Our brains want to save as much energy as possible. Think about when you're overloaded with so much knowledge, so much different information. What happens? You start to feel a little bit funny. You might even get tired, or you start to get those headaches. And they're not bad headaches. It's just you just process way too much. And your brain has to have that time where it can, like, die down, regurgitate itself and make sure it's ready to do whatever else you're about to do next. So with this in mind, how do we ensure that we are utilizing the storytelling framework in order to be able to best serve our customers? Well, let's first and foremost identify what those are. So we have principle one, we have a character. Remember, Star Wars, there's always a main character. Let's just go with Anakin Skywalker in this particular case. And then we know that character, matter of fact, actually I'm gonna switch the movie. I'm gonna go with Lord of the Rings, you all. That was one of my most favorite movies. So we got Frodo, who had a problem, right? That problem was Frodo got, by whichever way, he got the ring. If I'm losing some of y'all really should go look at Lord of the Rings. It's a really good one. But I'm going to try to explain it very simple throughout this process. But Frodo got this ring. This ring was created by evil warlord, whatever the case may be. And now that he has this ring, there are people trying to kill him. They're going to destroy what's called the Shire, his people, friends, family, all that stuff. So now there's a very clear problem. And what Frodo needs is a way to be able to reach his solution. But Frodo, he's been in the Shire all his life. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, and think about it. If you've never been experienced to something, how do you know exactly what it is that you need to do to be able to take the next step forward? Well, just like many of us, we can all put ourselves in Frodo's shoes probably in some shape, form, or fashion, where we met a guide who came in and gave us a very clear plan ahead. And in this particular case, the guide for Frodo was Gandalf. So what we're going to stop here is, first and foremost, who's the character in your story? You? Okay, customer. Remember, it's not about us, but it's about them. But now the customer has a very real problem. And here's the thing, we're going to get to it, but when we're coming down to actually talking to the customer about their problems, think about surface level conversation. Who likes surface level conversation? Raise a hand. Nobody? Cool. That's the thing. Most businesses typically have surface level conversations to be able to identify a problem, but they don't ever go deeper enough to be able to understand how that problem really makes that customer feel, that client feel. Now, what would it look like if we were to sit down with a customer, not only understand what their problem is, but take it a step further and begin to empathize with that problem and be able to go and project further ahead to say, hey, you know what? I understand that your problem is A, B, and C. And based upon my experience, I understand that if these problems persist, that it could lead to these particular outcomes. Let me ask you, how does that make you feel? What would happen if those outcomes became a reality in your life? And by asking these questions, what we can do, here's, I talked a little bit about it earlier, it's about making real connections with the people, being human. When we're asking the right questions and really truly trying to get to know our customers, not just trying to sell them, then we can focus on really understanding what are going to be the true motivators that are going to allow them to potentially move forward with us. In this particular case, Frodo had, he wanted to save his people. It wasn't even about the world and everything that they were going on. It was just simply, I don't want my people to die, and this is how it's making me feel. On the surface level, Frodo was probably scared, lost, confused, but at the end of the day, he knew he had to do something if he didn't want to be in the same position. And so, in order for us to when we dive deeper, we're able to get the true answers we need to be able to be an effective guide. And in order for us to be an effective guide, once we ask those right questions, we can go to principle 4 where it says, who will give them a plan? Very self-explanatory, and then we dive into that plan should be able to call our customer, our hero, to action. Think about this, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but we put out marketing material and we say, hey, we want you to take this particular certain action. We believe that, I've worked hours on this marketing material, the graphics is great, all of these different things, and here's a very clear call to action. Sometimes I've seen some really poor call to actions like the learn mores, let's get a little bit creative, but let's make it very clear that we are calling that individual to action. Let's persist on talking about that problem, show them why we're the right guide to help them achieve success, give them the plan, and then make sure that we call them to action very clearly. And then by doing so, it will result in either success. I was talking too long on this slide, yeah? It'll either result in success or failure. Now, of course, we all want success. That's the business we're in. We don't want to start working with people and lead them down failure. But let's start with it. A character. So the customer is the hero, not your brand. I've already said this plenty of times. All you need to do is make sure that you're inviting them into a journey, and make sure that you are sparking that inner desire by truly getting to understand them. So, what's the best way I can go about this? Frodo, let's go with Frodo again. We already understand that what his story was, what his mission was. Now, what was the spark of desire? The spark of desire was the fact that Frodo had a very real problem, and he needed to satisfy that problem by ensuring that he got the ring to his destination. But here, just like many of us, we can have a problem that persists, but don't actually know that we need to take the certain steps to be able to reach whatever desired goal that we're looking to reach. And so again, when we're thinking about this, when we say that the customer is the hero, remember this. Why we're putting them or framing them as a hero is, and why we're framing ourselves as a guide, would be the fact of any hero that we've looked at different stories of. Think about this. No hero became a hero because they just knew exactly what to do. Most heroes are very lost, confused, and need direction. If they didn't need direction, think about this. If you knew everything you needed to know in order to build a successful business, most of you all probably wouldn't even be in this room today. But you don't have all the information you need, and even when you still have the information that you need, it can still be a bit taxing, confusing, and scary to push forward. And so we have to have that character who we know we're going to allow to be the hero of the story, but then they have to have a very clear problem. Now, think about this. Any movie that you've watched, there have been some very confusing movies out there, but most movies have this same framework where there's a character. Matter of fact, a movie genre that I don't necessarily care for, I always tell my mom, it's so predictable, it's Hallmark movies, you all. Like, oh my God, I cannot stand a Hallmark movie, yet somehow, some way, she always finds me to be able to get me to sit down and watch these movies. And I'd be like, why are we watching these? Like, I'm about to tell you exactly what's gonna happen. First off, you only get one kiss in a Hallmark movie. It's one kiss at the very end of the movie. But there's always oh, it's all good. It's all good. I've told it to her face. I've already told it to her face. And so with that being said, there's always this conflict, right? Things start off well, right? Remember Frodo, when that movie started off, everything was going good. Everybody was happy. They was dancing, got all the beautiful music. And then boom, something happens to completely destroy that moment of peace. And that's the same way in Hallmark. You got the girl, boy, for some odd reason, you just like, what are y'all doing? Y'all know y'all supposed to be together. And then all of a sudden things going well, and then all of a sudden something happens. It's always something dumb too. It's just like, really? Is this real life? Like, let's make this more simple, you all. And so what happens, conflict comes into a picture. Now, when conflict comes, you now have two decisions. Either you can allow that conflict to stay, which we don't want those individuals, because If those individuals don't want to move and see themselves better in a better position, they're not really probably going to help us be able to be an effective guide for them. We definitely want to serve those who actually see that they have a problem and actually want to do whatever it takes to get that problem to be rectified within reason, right? So that being said, we need to define the customer's problem. I've already talked a little bit about that, and then we need to make sure that we're engaged by addressing their needs. But how do we actually know their needs? I've already spoken to this already. We need to take the time to be human. We need to take the time to get to understand what is their real problem. Don't just allow them to tell you, you know what? My business would be doing so much better if I was making about $20,000 to $30,000 a month. Okay, that sounds good, but everybody's business would be doing better if we was making $20,000 to $30,000 a month. What's the real reason why your business needs to make $20,000 to $30,000 a month? It's what's going on. Is your business on the verge of shutting down? Or are there some family problems? And not that everybody's gonna open up, right? But there are some business owners that will open up to you and be like, look, man, I kind of made a bad deal with this business last year, put the company in a hole, and now it's taking a financial hit on my family's life, and my wife over here complaining on me, stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. And you start to realize, like, okay, this is much bigger than just making $20,000 to $30,000 a month. There is a real problem that you can now attach to, and now that you can speak to. You can now speak to, look, hey, you know what? I'm understanding that you feel that you need to make $20,000 or $30,000 more a month. But the real reason why is because you want to see that your family gets out of the hole that they're currently in right now due to, unfortunately, a bad decision that you made. Maybe that bad decision came by way of working with a faulty business owner that just screwed you over. Whatever the case may be, now I can speak to your problems, I can speak to your pain points, but then I can also be effective in addressing how I would be a better option for you versus who? Your competition. Now, they meet a guy who understands them. Customers aren't looking for another hero, they want a guide. And when we think about a guide, we think about a tourist person, right? When you go out of town, let's say Greece, wherever, Rome, whatever, you have this guide that is taking you around these different landmarks. And what is the guide's job to do? Is to be able to educate you on the history of these different pieces that they're showing you, to kind of tell you valuable information that maybe you would have never even known about had you never actually been in that position or had the right guide to be able to educate you on those things. In the same way that guide is educating us on the different landmarks that we're visiting in our business, we need to be the guide that is going to educate our audience on how it is that we can best serve them. But again, we need to ensure that we are always focused on the problems that they actually have going on. So be the guide, not the hero. Customers don't need another hero, and then focus on guiding. Remember, it's not about what you can do. Don't be about the I. Don't focus on your recognitions and accomplishments. Focus in on the problem that they have. Speak to their problem. And here's the thing, it might start to get a bit irritating, but you kind of want to irritate that customer in a respectful manner. We don't want them cussing us out and stuff. But we want them to truly understand, like, hey, if you do not rectify this problem today, here's the true cost of staying in this position. So what does a guide do? Gives them a plan. Let's make that plan very simple. So kind of talking about, I was making a little bit of a joke in regards to relationships and how faulty communication can come into play. First and foremost, customers need a clear plan, just like pretty much all of us need a clear plan. Most people, for me, as I've gotten older, especially since my son has come about, I've definitely been a little bit more risk averse. I need to think some things through, because it's no longer me anymore. I got to actually think about how this is going to affect my son and his well-being. And so I need to have a very clear plan behind all the things that I'm doing. And in the same case, our customers want a very clear plan. Most likely they're already confused. Got to think about that our customers have probably tried multiple tactics, multiple strategies, whatever the case may be, in order to alleviate their problem, and they continuously keep falling, bless you, into this little pit hole where they just feel like they just can't get out. So they need a very clear plan, and it needs to be a simple step process. By doing that, engagement begins to rise. Why does engagement begin to rise? Because you're no longer confusing them. Remember, we talked about the white sea of noise. There's so many different, so much information out there, right? And at the end of the day, if I was to just go look up what is the latest marketing strategy that I can implement for my startup in 2024, you're going to, again, get thousands, if not millions worth of content that you can digest. And at the end of the day, what is going to cause you to click on either that first link that pops up versus clicking on going to the second page? I like to go to the second page, and see what the second page has to offer and see if that they have something that might be more valuable to what it is that you're looking for. So keep the plan clear. Provide simple step-by-step process. Don't use all these fancy jargons. Think about this. If you were a doctor talking to a seventh grader about a particular disease that they have, do you think that seventh grader would understand you if you're talking with all the doctor lingo, all the jargon? I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not even a seventh grader, and if a doctor begins to talk to me in the way that they talk to other doctors, I would never understand them. We need to dumb it down. And I like to just say dumb it down because, it's really all we're doing. Dumb it down to a way where I can understand and make a very clear, concise decision on what I need to do in order to be able to move forward. Before I go any further, everybody understand where I'm coming from right now?
Yes.
All right, cool. I appreciate that. So, StoryBrand principle 5, calls them to a clear action. Customers do not take action unless what they're challenged to do so. Again, so you can have a very clear problem, and you know that that problem needs to be rectified. But how many of us, by a show of hands, has been in a particular problem and did not take action until somebody eventually came to us and said, hey, I don't know if you see this, but you really are going through this. Come on, man, y'all perfect out here? Okay, all right, cool. And here's the thing, that's just human nature, you all. Sometimes we're slow to act. That might be due to fear. It might be due to confusion. There are so many different things that cause us to react slowly. And in this particular case, our customers are going through that same exact thing. They're not fast to react. You can provide them with a very clear action plan and let them know that, hey, this action plan is going to lead you to point A, B, and C, and then also help rectify these particular situations that in return will help ensure that your family is in a much better position, ensure that you have a stress-free life, that you are more peaceful, you are seen as a more financial savvy individual. Speak to the things that are truly holding on dearly to them and that they feel like, man, if I just lose this one little piece, I don't know where my life is gonna go. So you gotta be able to call them to action. So you gotta call those customers to action and then define specific steps. Remember, sometimes I've had to learn this, common sense is not really just that common anymore. And so while we would love to think that everybody's gonna have common sense, let's just go ahead and do the thinking for them. When you're calling them to a particular action, tell them, hey, these are the exact steps you need to take. And then keep those steps simple. Have you been on a website once before in your life where you saw a process and they provided you with like 6 to 7 different steps? And you're like, okay, in your head, you self-analyze, like, these 7 steps could have been dumbed down to just simply 2 to 3 steps. Like, make it very clear to them. Tell them, hey, schedule a discovery session, get an action plan. And then for me, I like to always take the approach of ending it with success. So once you get that discovery session, we learn about your actual problems and we give you that clear action plan. Go ahead, join our team and grow your business. whatever you want to end that success with, however it pertains to your business. Why do we do that? Because now we are reassuring the hero, our clients, that by doing business with us, that they are going to end their journey with success. They're going to fulfill whatever surface level goal they want to obtain. But then we're going to speak to their philosophical needs as well, and make sure that we're addressing the things that they might not be quite saying to us, but through our savviness of just being humans and truly wanting to understand those that we're serving, that we are fulfilling a true need. Not only are we meeting a need, but we're exceeding a need. So that results in, remember that sixth principle, it's either going to result in failure or success. Everybody in here, I hope everybody, but I don't know where everybody's head is today, is that I believe we all want to avoid a tragic ending. Nobody wants to fail in life, whether that be failing your kids. The way that I handled failure before my son was completely different to when he came. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't want to, lose new business. Or at that time, I'm working my part-time job, and I'm like, I used to be that person back in my younger days where I was just jumping around and all that different stuff. Like, oh, I can find me another job anytime. But no, I'm like, I got to be smarter, wiser in the way that I move. Why? Because here we go. People are driven by either avoiding failure or achieving success. Those are two different things for those who might not think it. But here's the thing. People are driven by avoiding failure. When you're focused on just avoiding failure, you might not have a very clear plan of what success really looks like. All you know is what your factors of failure is, and you say, hey, you know what? I just want to avoid these particular obstacles that might come up in my life. Whereas a person who is focused on achieving success, not only are they understanding what the failures are that are potentially going to come up on their journey, but they also have a very clear understanding of what success looks like for them. Now, here's the thing. I talked a little bit about pivot in the beginning when I was pivoting my career. Understand that if you ever come to a point in your journey where you have to pivot, don't look at that as failure. That is not failure. You just had to course correct. You just had to course correct and ensure that you are moving in the right direction. And well, let's just be honest, you all, we don't live in a world that allows us to just live this pretty life and never come through obstacles. It's always going to be like this. We've seen many people who kind of showed us different graphs of a journey in business where we're going up, down, and sometimes it's really going to be like that. It's just going all over the place. You draw this beautiful Mona Lisa picture and you're trying to figure out, how did I do this? Well, because life. That's the wonders of life. And so now what we need to also then do in order to avoid failure is we need to define what are the potential losses. What is the true cost of failure? It's a saying that, I forget his name, but he said, if you think the cost of success is high, wait till you receive the bill of regret. And I remember when I began to listen to that particular statement, I was like, man, that's a very powerful statement, because what that's now telling me is that what is the true cost of me staying complacent in my problems? What is the true cost of my customers staying complacent in their problems? And in the sense of building a story brand, we need to truly continuously focus on being able to speak to those problems. Well, look, Tom, I see that you're giving me pushback, and I understand that this is a scary thing that you have to do to determine whether or not I'm going to be the best agency owner to rectify that problem. I know you've had some different moments in your life where you've trusted different agency owners and they just screwed you over. But here's how I'm different. Here's how I want to ensure that we can get you in a position where you are not only living a life that you're proud of to be able to speak to others, but your family, your loved ones can say, hey, you know what, Dad, it was that moment where we went through this, or honey, it was that moment where we went through this, but you came out on top, you kept pushing forward, and we need to make sure that we're speaking to what those tragic endings look like, and then how do we, what end in success. So never assume people understand how your brand can change their lives. Tell them. Remember, common sense is not common. Some people will overlook the most simplistic things. And a very simplistic thing could be just them knowing that, hey, if I take this desired step, this is the solution I've been looking for. You've made it very clear that you understand my problem, and the fact that as long as I also put in the work, this is the hero we're talking about, because remember, the guide, we're the guides, we're going to give them that action plan, but you also, and what I told you earlier, you don't want a hero that doesn't want to put in the work, that just wants to be complacent in where they are. They have to want to grow. Reason why is because then they have to actually put in some work themselves. Closed mouth doesn't get fed. At the end of the day, you do have to work. And so you want to find a hero that is going to put forth that work and make sure that they clearly understand how it is that by going with the action plan that you set apart for them, how it's going to change their lives. So speak to what? Their vision of success, while also talking to what? Hey, this is where you are today. This is where you can be tomorrow. It's going to take these particular ordeals or these particular steps to get there, but there is a brighter side above the mountain, or whatever the case. I messed up on that cliche, but whatever. Define their future, you all. A great guide not only provides a very clear action plan, but it shows them what the possibilities are in life. Not, again, by preaching on what you can do for them, but what they can do for themselves as long as they really believe in themselves. That's really what it is. Be human, be compassionate, empathize with them, and give them a plan to succeed. So, where are we at? The story must be clear. Be clear in your messaging. Differentiate yourself within a crowded marketplace. And most importantly, be sure that you're willing to connect with your customer where they are. So, that's all I got for you all. This QR code is focused on being able to attain all that information along with some different links. I have a link up there for quality leads made simple. It'll kind of walk you through the StoryBrand framework as well as some different things as far as improving your user experience on your website to have very clear messaging that speaks to your desired audience. So feel free to scan that. And then any questions?
Yeah, we'll go ahead into questions. Just give me 1 second and I'll come right over to you.
Hi, thank
Hey.
you for that. My question is, first of all, let me introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Dee Motley. I am a financial coach. And so I talk about one of the most sensitive topics, which is money, for people to grasp their heads around. And so you mentioned something about how our brains function on survive and thrive or just trying to save energy. And I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over
Yeah.
and over again when it comes to financial management. So what are your tips to, I guess, diversify the message? Like, even though the message is still the same, whether you're wanting to transform your money mindset, get out of debt, and those types of things, but how do you keep that engaging when you're literally repeating the same thing over?
Yeah. I would say first and foremost, just focus on understanding why they even got into the position that they're in. Again, we want to understand what the problem is. And especially from a financial standpoint, people typically are going to be embarrassed. I made very bad decisions as a young person trying to keep up with the Joneses, which put me not in the best position. But thank God I was able to get better. But I did not want to open up to other people and let people know about those tragedies of my bad decision making as a younger individual. But again, they're going to give you those surface level conversations, those surface level answers. And I think the biggest thing is knowing the right answers or the right questions to ask, open-ended questions where it just allows them to talk. In most cases, no matter what business you're in, give your customer ability to just pour out whatever they need to pour out in communication, and they're going to eventually say something. that you can say, that light bulb went off, and maybe I need to jot that down so that I can now come back to them and address that. Hey, well, you said this earlier. I know you didn't actually talk about that when we first had that conversation, and I'm thinking that could be part of the reason on why we're having those battles of why you're not actually grasping the concept of how we can actually improve your financial lifestyle, or whatever lifestyle they're looking to improve based on the type of business that you're in. So I would say just a lot of open-ended questions that allow them to be able to talk, where you can just really focus in on listening. Here's another cliche saying, we got 2 ears, 1 mouth. So let's do less talking. And in this case, it's more so just so we can get the information we need in order to be more effective guides for those we're serving.
Coming over here.
I have a comment. My name is Sandra Keeley. I got a small grant from Ford through Ferguson. My nonprofit is called 3 Daughters and 1,000 Sons. And our initial campaign is to expunge 1,000 criminal records.
Okay.
So on what you're saying, when we had a clinic, we had the people bring their police reports in, and they were able to sit with the lawyer. We sort of had like a speed dating thing with the attorney.
Right.
But while people were waiting, I was talking to the different individuals, and one shocked me. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, you need your criminal record expunged because you want a job, you want housing. And one gentleman said he wanted his criminal record expunged because he wanted to buy a weapon to protect his family. And I was like, oh, I get it. So what that had me do, I had to research at what level you were able to expunge a record and get a gun. So what you said, it was just like, I've experienced how if I wasn't listening, and I had this assumption, well, this person want a job, he want to get an apartment, he's trying to go back to school. And so if you're not asking the questions and listening, you really miss out on how to guide that person to solve their issues. So
Agreed.
that was real talk, what you
Thank
just
you.
did.
Alicia made a point. I was thinking about it. Somebody asked you what was the biggest lesson you've learned in your career. And when that question was actually, I thought the same thing. I was like, being in my own way, honestly, really, is probably the one thing I wish I would not have done for myself. Getting in my own head, and just, speaking negatively of myself. But also, when it comes from a business standpoint, just not simply listening, not deciding to ask the right questions because of what? I was more so focused on the money. When I first got into business, you all, especially marketing, web design, at that time, people was making a lot of money to build websites and stuff like that. And so I was just looking at the dollars. I was like, look, I'm good at this, went to school for it, and let's just go ahead and make all this money, right? And then I quickly got in and realized that I actually came out of more money when I had the mindset of trying to just get the quickest dollar than when I finally started to focus on serving people. And I think that really came from, one, my intentions were just completely wrong. But then two, I just wasn't hearing what those who I was serving was truly saying. So I'm spending all this money to try to get in front of these individuals, yet I'm not even doing what it takes to actually truly understand what it is that they're going through to be able to solve their problems. I'm focused on, they're telling me at the end of the day that they're struggling on being able to maybe create an automation process that will allow them to be able to reach a certain audience. Well, at that particular time, I don't know nothing about marketing. I'm just focused on, how about this? Let's build this new website for you, right? And it'll turn all this stuff around. But had I listened, first and foremost, I could have just said, hey, you know what? I'm not the resource for you right now. And be okay. That's one thing I want to say. Be okay with telling people that you're not the resource that they need. You don't have to serve everybody. And here's the thing. I've learned through challenging relationships with clients that I wish I would have just told them at the very beginning, because I knew it. Most times you probably already know who's going to be that challenging client through communication. Had I just directed them to somebody else who would probably be a better fit for them, it would have not only saved me the headache, but I probably wouldn't have came out of the time, energy, and finances that I had put in to even trying to create this experience for them that they didn't even appreciate. So they're gonna give you a mic just because of the recording.
Actually, what you just said actually reminded me of something.
Okay.
There was this time when me and my dad were in Chicago for a vacation, and there was a restaurant that was full. Instead of just turning us away, they actually made a recommendation for another restaurant that they knew was really good, and in doing so, they got a bit more, they got a bit of a reputation. I'm not entirely sure, but I think my dad might have gone there or after at some point.
Yeah. When showing compassion, empathizing with people. At the end of the day, even if the business doesn't go in the favor of yours, at least they can look back and say, hey, at least that business owner, even though we might not have seen eye to eye, or maybe we just wasn't clicking in the way of the solution that they wanted to provide us, they didn't allow their personal feelings or whatever they might have been feeling at that particular time to get in the way. At the end of the day, they still wanted to see me succeed. And that's how I look at it, is from an integrity standpoint. I just want to make sure that as a business owner, we all are doing what it takes to keep us in upstanding integrity. That, you know, regardless if it's 2 years from now and 20 years from now, that people can say, hey, you know, business didn't go the way that I would have liked to go for with whomever, but they still took care of me. And even when things got tough, they not only communicated, but they also provided me a solution that I was able to go and then find what exactly I needed to succeed. So, any other questions?
I probably could have just yelled this, but speaking about storytelling, I'm gonna be kind of literal, but understanding that the client or the potential client is the focus of the story. They're the hero of their story. When is it appropriate to tell our story, and when do we tell their story? So like in pitching, we're encouraged to tell our story, like how we came up with this. I'm hearing you say put the focus on the person that we're talking to. How do we do that in a way that's relatable to them, not holding too much focus on us? It seems like there's a balance that.
Definitely a balance act. I would say the best way is, first and foremost, if you're given the opportunity where it's just talk about you, take advantage of that, but don't do it in a way where you're boasting and seeming so prideful about yourself. Being the fact, maybe find relatable experiences. Hey, we went through an experience with a particular customer that, you know, sent us down this particular path, and we ended up experiencing ABC. Right, and because ABC came about, now we needed to take a particular, you know, pivot in the way that we approached that situation to ensure that they did not continue to experience whatever particular problem or whatever the outcome of the failure was going to be. So you're speaking to yourself, but you're saying in a relatable experience that still also puts attention on the customer. You can highlight yourself. Again, the biggest thing there is just don't seem boastful. A hero, they've reached their goal. They've accomplished what they needed to accomplish. And so at that particular point, not that it's right or anything, but a lot of heroes in today's society, we like to brag. Look at what I did, look what I got. And it's what I'm trying to say is focus less on here's what I got, here's what I've done, and here's why I did it. And here's how what either I or my team did helped others. you can still be able to speak to the goals and accomplishments that you're doing or achieving without having to sound so boastful and prideful about it, and still focus on those that you're serving. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, if there's no further questions, thank you so much, Tim. Oh, sorry. I think we have one more question. I apologize.
Okay, in the consultant space, how do you figure out what to charge? Do you see what's going on in the market? Because I'm always about the money at this point. So I just, you got your competition.
Honestly, I wish I can give you a very clear answer on that. I think for me it's been by trial and error. Again, when I first got in consultancy, I definitely felt like some of that, let's get the money, feelings was inside of me. So I would definitely start high. But then eventually I started to realize, first and foremost, who was it that I wanted to serve? Great if I can serve a big corporation and being able to help them clarify their message. But it's people like you all who truly need that clarity, because you're having to go against those bigger companies. And I mean, unless you all are rolling in money and can afford $10,000, $20,000 for a project, then I need to be very conscious on who it is that I'm looking to serve, and then make sure that my prices fit them. But then also technology is great. We got different processes that allow us to be able to make payments. Stripe, I love it because I can just put people on a payment plan, and we work things out. So I don't think it's a very clear answer on that, and I think honestly you would just have to kind of pivot as your business grows and see where it takes you.
I think this week's going to be super helpful for you. Again, thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you all.
Great round of applause.